Hi, and welcome to New God Sunday School. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. Now, recently, there was a free comic book day version of I Am Stan, and I just received advance copies of I Am Stan in soft cover, I Am Stan in hardcover, and the new softcover release of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. All of these books are going to be available in comic book stores in August and in other retailers in September. But I mean, how do you like them apples? This was a really nice surprise that came in the mail from my publisher, 10 Speed. I was not expecting this and was just so excited to finally see these things in person. Look at that power there. So today we're talking about one of my top two all-time favorite comics, Mr. Miracle #9, The Great Scot-Free Bust Out. You'll never read a story like Hyman. This is a comic from 1971, 1972, and it's like, if you like Star Wars, you'll love this comic. This is like, it's like Star Wars but better is basically how I describe it. But it's one of my top two comics. This and New Gods #7, The Pact, are just like really speak to me. I mean, they're just like great comics to begin with, very rich, lots of invention, lots of new characters. They're structurally interesting. The story is very engaging and emotional. And then, it happens to take place in exactly the kind of setting that I love, these sort of like pure science fiction mythic spaces where it's just like a complete other world, and the world that it presents is just like very compelling, very exciting. It's a real showcase of this world of apocalypse that Jack Kirby created, probably like his biggest creation to the DC universe, other than just the aesthetics and storytelling things that he innovated just in general, and that all of comics has been borrowing. But probably his biggest like specific contribution to DC, and something that they continue to use to this day. But you get a lot of time on Apocalypse, and it's a scary, dangerous place, and young Scot-Free, who grows up to be Mr. Miracle, has got to get out of there. Great cover. Really like the colors too. I really like this ad too, all these like sort of Mean Machine toy ads that we're seeing around this time in the 70s, this era of sort of like Big Daddy Roth artwork, and toy companies and model companies trying to get in on that with their own creations. And I mean, look at that splash page. More or less like purely abstract forms, recognizable as sort of in their elemental form. So you get this sort of Kirby Crackle cosmic fire. You get this sort of Kirby tech as the background, almost like, Kirby tech map. And then like a completely abstract spaceship design that has, I guess, some aesthetic elements of sort of a boat, like a flying boat or something, but doesn't really conform to any, kind of spaceship we've ever really seen before. But it's completely readable, as what it is. Just really wonderful and astounding. And brings you right into this world. Almost half the page is taken up by this like imposing column of fire. The heart of Apocalypse lies beyond gray borders, across the darkening road to long shadow, through the clanging horrors of nighttime, and rises white hot at the raging, hissing infernos of the planetary fire pits, the raw and dirty edge from which great dark side draws mammoth power and feeds upon a mighty fear of Hyman. And so all that talk about like the land of gray borders and long shadow, it's, kind of brings you into sort of like a Tolkien-esque kind of space. Like this is, if, there was a sequel to Lord of the Rings that took place on other planets, it might be this. As it was done in the segment of New Gods known as The Pact, I ask your same indulgence for Mr. Miracle, J.K. So this is a companion piece for, New Gods #7. These two stories play really well with each other. And the Mr. Miracle young scot-free backups, which have been running in the back of a lot of issues of Mr. Miracle. This is kind of the culminating point of that ongoing storyline. So it's kind of like what we're seeing on Thor's Day comics, how sort of in Tales of Asgard, characters and storylines kind of simmer in the background in Tales of Asgard, and then make their way to the main story of Thor. That's what's happened here in an extremely organic way. And look at this, one of these breathtaking Jack Kirby double page spreads, which are sort of become typical of his 70s work. He includes these in a lot of his 70s comics. And when I was sort of first collecting Jack Kirby comics, if I would buy a Jack Kirby comic from the 70s and there wasn't a double page splash, I'd be disappointed. Like I really wanted the double page splash. Here in the harsh light of the giant flames that burn before endless gods are the jammed masses of lowlies who labor in sweat and glory in the greatest of them all, Darkseid, who will allow belief in nothing but himself. And so we have this giant place. I think this might be the first time we hear the term Armageddon, but Armageddon becomes very important. It's, where young Scott-Free grew up, and then it's where, it is foretold that Orion and Darkseid will have their final battle. And this double-page spread, like whenever, Apocalypse shows up in like a DC Comics cartoon, or whenever some other artist has to draw Apocalypse, you see a lot of this double page spread show up there. And you got this little chain link fence in the foreground. And talking about Darkseid, that like this is a planet of gods. And some of them do seem, sort of large and over the top like gods, but most of them are sort of miserable wretches. And it's just, again, it's telling you about what's going on Apocalypse. It's not a planet full of evil super gods the way New Genesis is a planet of good super gods. It's like on this planet, Darkseid has imposed a hierarchy and a structure that's so oppressive, so overbearing, that gods think that they have no power whatsoever and live that way. We're positive that Hyman's in the group we've rounded up. Close off the area. No one goes in or out. All right, line up and shut up. You, stay where you are. That's an official anti-grav tub landing here. What's up? We're saving you from infection. Now get back in your hovel. So Hyman is this mysterious figure on Apocalypse who the powers that be have been hunting for years, maybe centuries, and they have the populace convinced that he carries a plague of some sort. Now maybe it's sort of like a Cold War style ideological plague that his ideas and his way of life are dangerous in themselves and will spread and destroy Apocalypse. And Darkseid has convinced the people that Darkseid's enemies are their enemies. Or maybe it is a literal plague. That's not exactly spelled out in here, whether it's like Hyman has a case of cosmic cooties. And I like this touch of this guy sort of chasing a giant space lizard from his hovel. Apocalypse has always seemed to me to be completely inhospitable to life. And so this might be the only piece of wildlife we've ever seen in any of these like New Gods comics by Jack Kirby is this kind of formidable looking lizard. This thing looks like a survivor, like it could live anywhere. Silence this stinking crowd. And so we have, speaking of Star Wars, we have these space fascists with, samurai helmets. You lowlies know me. I'm Wonderful Willick, your district protector. I've cornered a worm among you, eating at your lives and spirits and meritorious work. Hyman, great Darkseid, save us from him. Tell us where he is, Wonderful Willick. We'll kill the vermin ourselves. Yeah, gladly. On Apocalypse, there's a lot of Orwellian double talk, as the Forever People called it in issue 8, that this guy who is this sort of oppressive figure is their district protector, and he's Wonderful Willick. Meanwhile, he looks anything but wonderful. He's kind of this a cosmic bully. But if he's among us, he must look like one of us, talk like us. That tricky rat. I hear he's got a mother box which weaves him a disguise. That won't help him. Not while wonderful Willick guards your pride and spirit. Hymen forgets that even lowlies would rather die for Darkseid than live with him. Burn them. So they set their flamethrowers and burn the crowd. Hold, Willick. It's too late for any plea. The flames strike and destroy the lowlies. Willick, you murdering fool. You had but to ask, and I'd have stepped forward. Only you could have survived those flames, Hymen. Step forward, now. No, Willick. Now the flames test you. Step in. The mother box you made will protect you, even as mine does, for a while. Step in, Willick. Dog. See how you fare with a Dynablast. But the blast recoils on Willick. Hymen's gone. He phased out. We'll get him yet. We'll get him. The swine, he caused you to fire at a force field, sire. The backlash struck you. So, already, this is like just amazing stuff. This like really, our first glimpse of Hymen. We don't see his face. We don't see what he looks like. We just see this silhouette distorted by flames with this fist, sticking out, inviting this like, Robin Hood, Sheriff of Nottingham kind of villain figure to step into the fire, and join him. It's the flames test you. It's we're off to a rousing start. Thus, we are witness to a bizarre incident. The story of it is old. It reaches back to the days of the great clash between New Genesis and Apocalypse. The battles were fought for total creeds, with total tools, and there were victims of it who survived with new and total arts. This is the story of Hymen, the ultimate escape artist, who fostered Mr. Miracle by teaching his trade to young scot-free. So yeah, this is a full comic book length installment of the Young Scot-Free series, which has been running as, backups in Mr. Miracle. This is the power that backup stories have. A flame becomes a fire, a pebble rolling down a hill becomes an avalanche. Don't stand there gaping. Give me your hand. Yes, of course. Legerdemain by Jack Kirby. Aiding the act with inky fingers, Mike Royer. I did my share of backup stories at DC, and I hope one day that they too will turn into an avalanche, the same way the Young Scot-Free stories did for this. Your phasing circuits are faulty. If I hadn't pulled you out of that wall, you could have become embedded in it. To become a wall in this cheap hovel is an ignoble fate. Thank you, skinhead. How dare you call me that? I'm an arrow trooper of Darkseid's own elite. Tish, 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 you're a nothing. You're an object. Your body is a weapon, and your mind is its trigger. You're given a world of conflict to test and improve your ability to kill, and you kill for Darkseid. It is the driving purpose of Apocalypse. And I think that thing about your body as a weapon and your mind as a trigger, I think that also showed up in the Young Scot-Free segments. It might have even been like I think it was what Metron said to him. And, he has a thorough understanding of the credo of Apocalypse. You must be insane to speak this way. I was a fool to seek you out. I don't know what prompted me to come to your filthy den, to learn about this mother box, to discover scot-free, to escape. At any rate, you're doing fine for a beginner. Come, let's join the others. The others, dregs, misfits. It's embarrassing to be among them. So scot-free is he's still indoctrinated, He's got his shaved head. He's indoctrinated by Darkseid's psychological warfare. Something in him has drawn him to Hymen, but it's got a lot of social programming to overcome. Hymen, at least physically, is modeled after Shel Dorf, one of the founders of the San Diego Comic-Con, and who, Jack Kirby had befriended around this time, and he'd met him and like some of the young fans who were part of the founding of the Comic-Con, sort of like a local, San Diego comics community. And so some of these like younger characters that show up in the New Gods epic are based on some of the kids he met. One of them being like Barry Alfonso, who also became the model for Witch Boy in the Demon series. Heroes, Scott. These are my heroes. All of you are my priceless puzzles within puzzles. Little pieces that not even Darkseid can fit in his great design. Put a lid on that garbage, Hymen. I've completed a mother box, but it does nothing. Nothing. Listen to Cretan. He despises you as much as I do, Hymen. But what you've shown me works. So this is what Hyman has to overcome. He's trying to foster like a community and sort of a rebellion, a place where you can create some kind of space outside of just this all-encompassing oppression of Darkseid. And it's such an uphill battle because not only is it dangerous in and of itself, but the people that he's helping have grown up in this world of Darkseid's and sort of have a hatred for him and for anything that is outside of Darkseid, just as sort of a gut level response at this point. They're so thoroughly indoctrinated. Darkseid has created a world where the entire world is a reflection of him. Scott-Free has sort of convinced himself that there's utility, there's a usefulness to Hyman, and that's why he's joined up with him, and for no other reason, that he still has tremendous contempt for this enemy of the state. Of course it works. Your opinion of me comes from Darkseid, but see what comes out of humble beings like Zepp and his computo stylus. Yeah, the little rat's got time to scribble. His mother box works. Mine does nothing, I tell you. The mother box doesn't work because you don't work. What is there about you that doesn't work, cretin? Don't hand me riddles. Look at it. Every gadget it needs is in it. Uh-oh. It's a pity. I know how risky it is to steal all those little technical ingredients denied to us lowly ones. But some of us take a little more, like fancy uniforms, and boop. So I swiped an anti-grav unit. So what? So you hid it under your helmet, so you could trade it for more gaudy junk. How foolish, Bravo. Show Bravo the value of a helpful object. Well done. Sure, I'll bring him down. There's enough circuitry on my wristband to do anything, Hyman. Show me the value in this female, Hyman. She does nothing but stare into that mind video. How do you know she does nothing? Because she creates visions that dance? Arlie's thoughts are beautiful. She creates beauty. Imagine doing this on a world like Apocalypse. This is the next generation of Apocalypse, and this is hope for Apocalypse, that these sort of young people can maybe create a new Apocalypse where there is room for art and emotion and humor and love. Poor brave Arlie, trying to survive with her inner beauty in that grim house of horrors Granny Goodness calls an orphanage. You're free to dance here, Arlie, just like your images in that mind video. You won't be punished. We'd like to watch you. Look, she's rising like someone in a dream. And then in the background, there's Barda and her Furies looking in the window. Suddenly, bullseye, target Arlie, tracked and overtaken. You're not only off post, but with a hated, vicious enemy. You little idiot, what must I do to save your neck? Take her, girls, and beat some brains into her. Just hand the fool to us, Barda. And as for all of you, whatever you are, this never happened, see? You've never met Arlie. You don't know her. Dum-dum, did you ever hear of a homing device? We hid one on your uniform. Let me go. And you, an Aero Troop officer here in Hyman's den, I'll give you the same advice. If you report Arlie, I'll spill the works about you. Is that so? What's your name, rank, unit? So everybody on Apocalypse is a snitch. Everybody on Apocalypse is a rat. You know, that's the thing in this kind of oppressive society. At any moment, somebody could turn you in and you're fucked. But it's sort of, it's a weapon everybody holds against each other and kind of, I guess, keeps things in check to some extent. Barda, you know, we know her better from having seen her up to this point, and Scott-Free as well, obviously. But we know, like, she's very gruff and very mean and very rough. But again, she's sort of doing this ultimately in her mind to protect Arlie, this member of her sort of her unit, the closest thing that she has to a family on this world of where there are no families. Lieutenant Barda, Female Fury Battalion, and now in Special Powers training. Now you give, mister, so I'll know for whom I twist my next metal noose. The name is Scott-Free. Like Arlie, I want to seek other roads, other tricks. You and your hidden sonics, I'll pound your skull flat. Good, I've got some new mechanisms that need testing. Silence, listen, there's a mob coming. They're here. I'm taking off, but remember my warning, Scott. Yes, if I make it back to Granny's. This like zombie movie thing of, holding this door back as all these sort of hands are coming through. Hyman, let me handle this. I'm the master technician here. I give the orders. Phase out, young ones. You heard me. Phase out, phase out, phase out, phase out. Like this panel here. As his young companions fade from view and vanish, Hymen gives way to the angry mob. Kill Hymen and all who befriend him. Hold him. Don't let the sly dog give us the slip. The others must be hiding. Find them. We found one. Here's the rat. Hymen, Hymen, I couldn't phase out. The mother box didn't work. I know, cretin. That's why I stayed, to help you. Hear me, fools. Let him go and do with me as you will. You know that Hymen doesn't lie. We have his word. Hymen is ours. Release Cretin. Cretin edges fearfully to freedom, and Hymen is hustled, as he always is, off to his doom. That was close. To the power refineries. We'll finish Hymen there. This time, his end shall be the final one. But somewhere in the shadows, on the path of Cretin's flight, a voice, someone calls my name. Who speaks? One who commands. Come closer, Cretin. Who are you? How do you know my name, sire? I'm Metron. There is little I don't know. I ask many questions and resolve them. Then you've been watching and know what's happened here. What can humble Cretin tell such a being? For all that Hymen has added to your life, including your neck, you did nothing to help him. But sire, Hymen doesn't share our origins. Was he to outshine us all with nobility and knowledge? Among us, he is worth mere dust. Certainly not worth your skin. Metron has had a role in the young Scott-free backup stories, and so, of course, he's here. It's really interesting to note the different lenses through which the larger story is viewed in each of these installments, because Metron in New Gods is a very different character, because he's viewed from a different perspective, from a certain point of view. Metron, Orion does not like or trust Metron, and so we see him through that lens in that. Metron was sort of a mentor figure and sort of a savior for Scott Free. So Metron is viewed as a much more benevolent and all-powerful figure here. My skin, sire, is dedicated to great Darkseid and his purpose. But until he claims it, I prize my skin above false gratitude to Hymen. Farewell, sire. Farewell, Cretin, for in that harsh truth you keep a pelt and forever lose a mother box. Now, what profiteth a man if he gain the world but lose his soul, if he gain the world but lose a mother box? Because the mother box, we're learning more about, these things we've seen, throughout this story. The mother box, this sort of mystic computer, is not just a computer. It is in touch with, the living essence of the source of all life. And you can build a perfect mother box, but if you don't have that sort of spiritual connection with it, it'll never work. If you're not, and Cretin is just not capable of that, and may never be. And to appease the lowlies, Hymen submits to dying in the power refinery. No deadly carrier of plague can live through this, Hymen. Die, Hymen, so we may live with Darkseid. Power from the fire pits, turned to fiery liquid, rains down on Hymen, and he dissolves in it. But Hymen is the master technician, the master of swiftness and temperatures. He is discovered alive by Darkseid's military and must die at their hands. Your death should make a great show, Hymen. This is imaginative indeed. Run for cover. He'd have to be lightning to escape from that. Let's drink to Hymen's fragments and our promotion. Hymen in this story is very reminiscent of Dr. Doom in, I forget which, it's one of the early Fantastic Four annuals, but it's sort of the origin story of Dr. Doom, and there's a segment where Dr. Doom is sort of, on the run, and, they keep hunting him down and killing him, like young Dr. Doom before he's assumed the Dr. Doom costume. And he's dressed, kind of, flamboyantly like Hymen, and each time they think they kill him, but they keep killing like these robot doubles that he makes. Hymen is cornered again. Official witnesses see him put to death with their own eyes. That's enough. See if he's dead. There's no doubt, sire. This character in the background always reminded me of Clytus from the 70s Flash Gordon movie, the Dino De Laurentiis production with the Queen soundtrack. Very cool. Again, these background characters of Kirby, very cool kind of throwaway character. It could be a ongoing supervillain in his own right, given the time and space, which Jack Kirby was not really given. Proof is never enough. Hymen has mastered the art of staying alive. He's buried in pits and dropped by parademons from the sky. When he strikes, he will shatter. Death follows endless death. The body of Hymen is forever paraded in triumph throughout the ghettos of Apocalypse. So it's finally done. That's the last we'll see of Hymen. Too bad. I would have liked a crack at him. All here would have liked a crack at him. However, you must admit he had no peer in the escape arts. True. In fact, I'm not sure that thing they carry is Hymen. I've heard that replicas can be made faithful to every atom in our form. You make a valid point, friend. And so there he is, Hymen, in the crowd, watching his own, funeral procession. He's the mentor, or one of the mentors to Scott Free, and the person from whom he first learned the escape arts. And the escape art, it was no game, no show for Hymen. This was, his way of life. This is how he survived on this world where everybody was his enemy. Darkseid did the thing which is, sort of common among totalitarians, where you create some kind of enemy, some kind of boogeyman, some kind of imaginary enemy. You tell the people that no, Hymen is your enemy, so that they won't, realize the real enemy is Darkseid. Then on a gutted slag heap near Armageddon, hail Hymen, master of theories. Hail Metron, master of elements. This could be like a painting. I'd love like a blacklight poster of this. The wonders I build are born in your brain. The roads that I travel are opened by your massive perceptions. Alas, the heart and brain of the visionary are eternally grounded here. I fostered Darkseid's power. I must be here at its end. This is kind of like, in Star Wars, you meet Ben Kenobi and he seems like this, great Jedi Master or whatever. And then in Empire Strikes Back, you find out that no, there's an even greater Jedi Master. All the stuff that Yoda, all the stuff that Metron does he just takes Hymen's discoveries and then, sort of refines them and makes them into things. But Hymen is the real dreamer, the real source of these things. And Hymen could leave Apocalypse at any time, but he has imprisoned himself there. He has forced himself to stay on Apocalypse, and he cannot leave until Darkseid, Darkseid's rule comes to an end, because he fostered Darkseid. We saw in issue 7, Metron give him the X element and give him the ability to, travel through the matter threshold and eventually be refined into the boom tube. And this was, one of the foundations of Darkseid's power. Hymen created that. And so he'll never be able to forgive himself, until he's destroyed Darkseid. So he needs to stay on Apocalypse and help in any way he can the people of Apocalypse get out from under the thumb of Darkseid. Scott Free will play no part in that. His destiny is to escape from Apocalypse. Darkseid plans to kill him for that and begin a new war. You must help Scott escape unhurt. You showed Scott the way to me, and I can teach him to escape Apocalypse, but I can't give him the resolve. Only Scott can renounce what he has here. Because yes, Scott, from our perspective, it's one thing, but from Scott's perspective, he would be giving up a lot. He's given his whole life to Apocalypse and to Darkseid, and he's actually risen up the ranks. He's well on his way to becoming, like a full officer, and maybe eventually a character like Kanto, or like Vermin Wunderbar, or maybe even Granny herself, this sort of, oddball member of Darkseid's elite. And he'd have to give all of that up if he comes to Earth and start from scratch in a world he doesn't know, and sort of, growing up being taught to sort of fear everything. And it's hard to get out from under this kind of all-encompassing brainwashing. But a destructive revelation is not a father, and a slaughterhouse is not a home for one born on New Genesis. Scott will make his decision soon. I shall see you then and there. Farewell, Hymen. So just great little scene here of, two gods among gods. The decision comes, and on Apocalypse, it cannot come in a gentle way. On Apocalypse, it must come like a sharp axe swung with a smashing blow to the bone and spine of a discipline shaped in the image of war. Hymen still teaches. His pupils still study, and still relentless and merciless in his work. Wonderful Willick still hunts. Bring him in. Your name is Cretan. We found that you feed at the brain of Hymen. True, great protector, but it's only to exploit his tricks. Nothing more, sire. Crack! Is the swine dead? Your skill with the throwing club is superb, sire, which is more than I can say for this dead lowly. In Hyman's ragtag group, this one had the least expectations. So, I mean, this guy, I mean, this is pretty brutal. Like, this guy just, Cretan, he's a creep, but, he didn't deserve this for sure. And there in the background, Darkseid is this. I think so far, Darkseid has not appeared in person in the Mr. Miracle series. He's always been this sort of like religious figure, this distant, sort of all-encompassing presence that you only see through like sort of statuary and images. This sort of bas relief on the wall, like almost like a giant like Darkseid gong. No mystic fire in this one, eh? But he did have talent. This is a fine mother box he built, but it's Hyman's model, powered by the Source. A type like this Cretan could never contact the Source. The others could, and we destroyed them. Clamp him to the Magna Ring with the rest of the bag. Now summon Scott-Free and Lieutenant Barda. So that whole cast of characters, or many of that cast of characters, Zepp, Bravo, and Well Done, and now Cretan, they're dead. This comic is not messing around. This isn't the Super Friends or the Avengers or something. This is serious, deadly serious. It's a very grim tableau. Now, before I had ever read this comic, I was familiar with in Neil Gaiman's Sandman. There's one of the earliest issues. Mr. Miracle is asleep and dreaming, and he's having a dream, and he's dreaming a lot of the stuff that's in this issue, and this was one of them. Now, in the Sandman version, instead of being hung to like a Magna Ring, they're sort of hung on sort of like meat hooks. There's hooks coming out of their chests, but it was pretty grim stuff, and I assumed the grimness was coming from Neil Gaiman, in this sort of horror comic that he was working on, but. And he did amp it up with like the hooks and stuff, and the artwork, I think by Sam Keith, certainly helped too. It was, Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg, I think did the artwork on that. Extremely like, dark and disturbing artwork, but the source material is pretty disturbing in its own right, So here we are. Come forward. Protector Willick, I have duties. Cool it, Sonny. Look up there. By the fates. Nice little catch, eh? They had names too, like Cretan, Zepp, Well Done, Bravo. Do you know why they're dead? They weren't like us, clean-cut types. They were different. Hare, you broke one of Granny's rules for male troopers. So, Scott-Free's already, the seeds of rebellion are sowed. He's growing hair. He's not conforming to Darkseid and Granny Goodness's strict codes of conduct and codes of dress. He's actually growing hair. He's defying the. Yes, you might be capable of anything, like visiting Hyman, perhaps. This is like one of those scenes in like a mob movie or something where you come into the office and you think everything's okay, and then you see like Joe Pesci's dead body or something, and it's like, uh-oh, we're fucked. Then your task is simple. I belong up there with them. Hold it, Willick. You didn't call me in here for punishment. What's your beef? Hands off. You female furies are quick to bear your claws, but you did have one among you, a fragile little failure. Auralee. Where's Auralee? She's been missing. We found her dancing like a pretty little doll, for which we gave her a pair of high-voltage shock boots. No. This is, as comics, this is, really well done sort of cropping and panel composition. But, this is, heartbreaking in story terms. The little worm was carrying mechanisms stolen or gotten from Hyman. Well, she didn't survive the questioning. Little Auralee, we tried to help and protect her. And look at how disturbed and anguished the faces are of Scott-Free and Barda, to the point of distortion, to the point like Kirby is just putting, pure anguish, in these faces. The drawing reflects that. Fine job of training you did. She didn't have the stamina to get by middle range shock. Now get it all off your chest or march off. I'm having my dinner. You butcher, I'll kill you, Willick. I'll do it better. Stand aside, waiter. But the waiter doesn't stand aside. He continues on, and a strange thing happens. Scott and Barda fall silent and follow him out. Ha! So they finked out on their bold threats. Pampered pets of Darkseid's elite. We have the means to deal with even them. But they can go. I'm waiting for Hyman. When he misses his chicks, he'll. I like this reveal. You open the waiter brings in a platter. He opens the lid, and inside is a bomb. Bam. That was some stew you served, waiter. We're lucky that you drew us out here with a mind-lock beam. Why does Darkseid hate you, Hyman? Why does he seek to stamp you out? This thing about the mind-lock beam, I feel like that's maybe like the one bum note in this story. Now, and again, like, who am I to question Jack Kirby? But just my opinion. I feel like in this moment when they're super angry and then all of a sudden they calm down and walk out, when I first read that, before I read this explanation here, I assumed that they got a glance at Hyman's face. They realized, oh wait, that's Hyman, and knew that there was some worse fate in store for Willick, and then they quickly worked their way out. I assume that's what happened, and I think this would read that way. Like, I think it works that way perfectly, and without the need for sort of like a sci-fi technobabble explanation. But again, this is Jack Kirby's story to tell, and I'm sure he knows better, but that's just my 2 cents. I'm a dreamer, a visionary, a think tank who pioneered the calculating mother box and linked it with the source. I found the X element and pioneered the boom tube. I dream. I roam the universe. Darkseid wants to own it. X element, boom tube, see New Gods number 7. Can this truly be done? Perhaps, if Darkseid puts an end to all other dreams but his. But there is still the riddle of what powers this mother box. That's again, the stakes. Darkseid wants to put an end to all other dreams but his. Have sort of like a universe of apocalypse. The entire universe is just one ugly reflection of Darkseid. The source, it lives, it burns. When we reach out and touch it, the core of us is magnified, and we tower as tall as Darkseid. Hyman, facially is looking a lot like Jack Kirby here, and that's what some people assumed, that Hyman was sort of a Jack Kirby self-portrait, and then later on finding out that he was based on I think in one of the letters columns they say it was based the physical resemblance on Sheldorf. Then Darkseid fears us all and fears what he can't control. And again, as the emotions of this story are reaching their sort of fever pitch, the shadows deepen and the graphics intensify. Yes, Scott, Darkseid fears you too, because you too can dream of things beyond Darkseid. What is the dream released inside Scott Free? I don't know. I think it's serenity embodied in the voice of a woman I cannot see. Always, she says, Isaiah, I've never heard you sing. I cannot see the woman, but I'm filled with the serenity she brings. That dream is yours, Scott, to dream beyond Darkseid on Apocalypse. It seems unthinkable. So Barda is not, she's heading in that direction, but she's not quite ready for this, the way Scott is. For a clue to the woman of Scott's dream, see New Gods 7, page 1. So these are the words that she says in that Evia, Scott's mother, says in the opening page of New Gods number 7. And he has this dream of sort of a moment that he was not present for. He has this moment, so sort of having like a larger sort of cosmic awareness in his dreams. And it also reminds me of sort of Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi having this dream imagery, these impressions of her mother that she can't quite put her finger on, but this understanding of her mother. And as sort of the prequels and things played out, we find that like her mother died when she was giving birth to her and Luke Skywalker. So again, it's similar to Scott's, where it's this sort of cosmic awareness and not an actual memory. Then escape finally comes. Scott is stripped of his rank, his mechanisms taken, all but his aerodiscs he bolts. So now Scott Free is living up to the name that Granny Goodness gave him when he was a baby. As we saw in New Gods number 7, Scott Free. He is named in honor of this day when he will escape. And Darkseid's plan is that the heir of Isaiah the Inheritor, High Father, escapes and is killed for that crime. Stop, we're checking an unauthorized flight. After him, haul him down. Parademons. My skill equals yours. And of course, like just the structure of of all these series and all of this, we've seen the pieces laid down. The groundwork has been laid. So we saw him sort of tussle with parademons during his practice run and stuff. And so now it's the real thing. My skill equals yours. Scott makes a sudden sharp reverse in course and tears in behind his pursuers. Dog, there are more of us. A fierce struggle ensues. The parademons find they've got a tiger by the tail. You'll die for this. Pull him down. We'll get him below. We can't hold him. He fights like Orion of New Genesis. Perhaps we share the same desires. Get out of my way. The might of Apocalypse is aroused to stop the fugitive. There he is. Get him. Dog cavalry. I'll have to dodge and run. So we're seeing everything. We're seeing the parademons. We're seeing the dog cavalry. Like a closing vice, the disciplined forces of Darkseid appear from every side. Scott is trapped between them. Infantry, I'm boxed in. You've had it, traitor. Now slow down and surrender. Then, as if from nowhere, a female Fury leaps from hiding with an electro lance. Great, we got another female Fury member. This one, her gimmick is a giant electro lance. Then come the rest in a full-scale attack. This way, Scott will hack out a path for you. Come on. So this is what is referred to in the Joseph Campbell hero's journey as magical flight. And it's always, very exciting, and you get different elements from the story coming in. It's sometimes the best moment of these sort of myth stories are the magical flight. As the female Furies engage Scott's pursuers, Barda lends him support in his flight. Barda, what you're doing is unheard of here. Why are you helping me? Because I like to help fools. Because I couldn't save Aurali. I don't know. I like how Barda's and Scott's friendship, when we heard it referred to in previous issues, we had different impressions of it being sort of like a more traditional friendship. And now we're seeing the real story, and it's more complicated, more interesting than we could have imagined. And they head for Armageddon using a wrecked vehicle park for cover, but from above. Inferno bolts, we've been spotted from the air. A product of a strange process called special powers training, Barda executes a super feat. Then I'll fix that flying death bird. This is one kind of attack it's not ready for. Farewell, Fink. You're an incredible female, Barda. What happens to the enemy above proves it. I love that we never get like a clear look at the ship that's pursuing them. It's sort of off panel here, just its effect is shown, and then we see it explode, and we see just little bits of debris from it. When Scott reaches his destination, his body seems to grow heavier, a stone, gaining in weight to boulder size. Slum Area 10. Barda! Keep going, Scott. And we can't leave out Mike Royer's role in this. The inking, the lettering, just pitch perfect, and the areas where he, deletes the panel borders. It's just, this is a masterpiece. Every little bit of it falls into place. And also, like before I'd read this, I'd also seen little bits and pieces of it shown in flashback in the Steve Rude, Mark Evanier, Mr. Miracle special. And this part always looked to me like they were sort of climbing up a wall, but it's described in here that actually the area's being saturated with mass gravity atoms. Everything's being crushed under its own weight. I won't be stopped. So it's like everything's just becoming super heavy. The journey is getting like more difficult than ever, perhaps impossible, and everything's so heavy it almost is like climbing up a wall. I'll crawl to freedom. Come with me. Not yet, Scott. I'm not ready. Perhaps someday. Keep going. And then here we are at sort of this almost religious imagery of this sort of pilgrim on his belly before these two gods and their creation, this cosmic gateway to paradise, and protected by their own mysterious powers against the forces that bind Scott. Two allies wait. Hyman, Metron, you've created a boom tube. It's denied to all but Darkseid's hierarchy. It's open to you, Scott. An open door to Earth. So now finally Earth enters the equation.
He can take it. I'll not stop him now. If courage and bravery took him here, some of it was mine.
As far as I can recall, Darkseid himself has never shown up in an issue of Mr. Miracle. And now here he is withheld until the exact perfect moment for him to appear. Just really, and Scott Free is shocked. This is his god, his God has manifested before him, this trinity here of Hyman, Metron, and Darkseid.
Stay, warrior. Let me complete the destruction of Scot-free, so you may live with the majesty that is the power of Darkseid.
When I read this scene for the first time, I sort of audibly gasped. This whole scene, it's just great. And again, as like a huge Star Wars fan, this feels so much like, after the duel between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, offering, let me complete the destruction of Scot-free. Darkseid sort of offering his hand and giving this guy a chance of sort of, joining him. It feels very emotionally akin to that. And I can't help but think that George Lucas, this, comics fan, movie maker, didn't have this, like, at least in the back of his mind, but who knows? You could imagine this coming out of Darth Vader's mouth, and instead of, Darkseid, maybe just the Darkseid. So,
Stay, warrior. Let me complete the destruction of Scot-free, so you may live with the majesty that is the power of the dark side.
Something like that.
The young fool goes on. He struggles to rise. If he leaves Darkseid, he'll still find death.
If he leaves Apocalypse, he'll find the universe. Let me be scot-free and find myself. And boom, perfect silent panel. Beautiful. Let me be scot-free and find myself. He throws himself, just like Luke Skywalker throws himself into the pit, Scot-free throws himself into the boom tube and off to, his destiny. He's gone, Darkseid. You'll have your war with New Genesis now. If you win the anti-life equation, you will rule our minds with all the others. Thus we phase out as it begins, and we shall be in Armageddon when it ends. For it is here where you will face Orion. So there you have it. There's the prophecy. And this is the beginning of the War of the New Gods. New Gods number 7 was part 1. This is part 2. And after this comes, New Gods number 1. This is after this comes, if you watched the previous video about Evan Dorkin's World's Funnest, next comes the segment in World's Funnest Comics on Apocalypse, and then comes New Gods number 1.
I'll face Orion wherever fate decrees. And in the end, I will shut down this universe to all life except the will of Darkseid.
And here's a message from Jack Kirby.
Don't get jumpy. It hasn't happened yet. Though Darkseid is abroad, the future is still free to all. Thus, from this heavy fragment of Mr. Miracle past, we move to the most exciting and dangerous chapter of Mr. Miracle to be.
You've just been witness to 26 pages of some of the finest comics that have ever come out of the medium. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, soon to be in softcover edition. I'm also the author of I Am Stan, which will be in hardcover and in softcover this August for comic book stores and September for other retailers. And there's a pre-order link for all of these books in the show notes below. I'll see you next time for New God Sunday School.